Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
Let's be honest, how many of us feel like our brains are just constantly on overdrive, trying to keep up with the sheer volume of information thrown at us every single day. It's like you're standing in front of a fire hose, just trying to catch a breath amidst a deluge of facts, figures, endless choices, and demands, all competing for your precious attention.
Yeah.
It's a feeling that resonates deeply with so many of us in this hyper-connected, always-on world, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And what's truly wild is that it's a challenge our brains, frankly, simply weren't designed for.
Right.
We're bombarded from every direction, and the sheer volume of data, decisions, and distractions can make it incredibly difficult to focus on what truly matters, to make clear decisions, or at a very basic level, even just to remember where you put your keys this morning.
That's spot on. Hearing you put it that way, it really underscores just how critical this deep dive is today. We're not just talking about decluttering your email inbox or optimizing your calendar.
No, that's much deeper than that.
Exactly. What we're aiming to give you is something far more fundamental. What amounts to an owner's manual for your mind in the 21st century? We're drawing on some truly incredible insights from a source that an Emmy Award-winning producer calls essential for staying sane, and even a U.S. congressman who famously talked about getting our mental closets in order.
It's a remarkable resource, actually. It combines crystal clear prose with cutting-edge scientific insight. A journey into the latest brain research, but also manages to weave in quite a bit of wit and practical, actionable wisdom. This isn't just about supercharging your productivity in your business or career. It's about providing practical strategies for navigating the modern deluge, so you can not only be highly effective, but also, yes, consistently find your car keys and your peace of mind.
Our mission today, then, is a deep, thorough unpackaging of the latest research on the brain, how it works, how it sometimes surprisingly works against us, and then most importantly, how we can extract practical, real-world strategies for organizing your entire life and business.
Yeah, the actionable stuff.
We want to help you cut through the perpetual noise, make smarter, more confident decisions, and ultimately achieve your most important goals with far less stress and a whole lot more clarity. So let's truly dive in. Okay, let's really get into this. I think the foundational issue we're all wrestling with right now is this absolute tidal wave of information, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Tidal wave is the right word.
The sheer unprecedented amount of data we face daily is staggering. Just consider the statistic from the source material. The average American is exposed to the equivalent of 175 newspapers a day.
175. That's just hard to even imagine.
Think about that for a moment. Or, if you prefer digital metrics, we're talking about roughly 34 gigabytes of information, which is about 100,000 words every single day.
Wow.
That's a truly mind-boggling volume to process.
It genuinely is. And what's fascinating here is that while the sheer scale of this information explosion is undoubtedly new, the complaints about feeling overwhelmed by information are absolutely not.
Oh, interesting. So this isn't a purely modern problem.
Not entirely, no. If you go back centuries, you find Seneca the Younger, the Roman philosopher and tutor to Nero around the 1st century CE, lamenting that his peers were wasting vast amounts of time and money simply accumulating too many books.
Huh. Too many books? Imagine that.
Right. He wasn't just talking about the physical clutter. He admonished them to focus on a limited number of good books, urging them to read those few thoroughly and repeatedly because, and this is a direct quote from him, the abundance of books is a distraction.
Wow. A distraction. Even back then.
He understood that the sheer quantity undermined true understanding. It diluted focus.
That's a powerful parallel, isn't it? It makes you wonder how much he would have made of our current digital libraries.
Oh, I can only imagine.
And he certainly wasn't alone in his frustration. Fast forward to the mid-1400s when the printing press emerged and completely revolutionized how information was disseminated.
Yeah, a huge leap.
Suddenly, books weren't just for the elite. They could be mass-produced. And what was the reaction? In 1525, Erasmus, the great Dutch humanist, absolutely railed against what he called swarms of new books.
Swarms. I like that. Very evocative.
He actually blamed printers for filling the world with texts he deemed foolish, ignorant, malignant, libelous, mad, impious, and subversive. He sounds remarkably like a modern-day internet critic, doesn't he?
He really does. The complaints echo through time.
And even Descartes, the great French philosopher, echoed this sentiment. He famously recommended ignoring the accumulated stock of texts, suggesting that even if all knowledge could be found in books, it would take longer to read those books than we have to live in this life, and more effort to select the useful things than to find them oneself.
It sounds eerily similar to navigating today's internet, trying to separate signal from noise, that feeling of where do I even start?
Exactly, it truly does.
The historical context really helps us grasp that the feeling of being overwhelmed isn't new, but the intensity and pervasiveness of it today are unprecedented.
Right, the scale and speed are different.
Massively different. Information isn't just printed and passively consumed anymore. It's quite literally shot at us from every conceivable direction. You're getting real-time updates on traffic jams in Singapore, the latest weather patterns on Mars, unfolding revolutions in countries halfway around the world, all delivered directly to your device as they're happening.
It's constant.
Our brains, which meticulously evolved over hundreds of thousands of years for a hunter-gatherer world where we might encounter, at most, 1,000 different people in an entire lifetime.
1,000 in a lifetime?
Now routinely process that many faces and stories in a mere half hour, just walking through Midtown Manhattan. This constant, relentless influx isn't just background noise. It fiercely competes for our neuroattentional resources, the very cognitive tools we need to process, decide, and ultimately to live our lives effectively.
And what's the real, tangible cost of all this disorganization and information overload in our daily lives? It's something we experience all the time, often without even realizing the underlying cause.
Yeah, those everyday frustrations.
Millions of us consistently lose our keys, our driver's licenses, our wallets, our passwords, crucial documents. These aren't just frustrating physical losses. The sources highlight them as the cognitive equivalence of losing keys.
That's a great phrase, cognitive equivalence.
It's important to clarify they're not broad memory failures where you forget your name or where you live. They're specific, temporary lapses.
Right. You still remember the important stuff.
You still remember where your TV is, what you had for breakfast, your best friend's birthday. Just not that one critical item you need right now.
And it's fascinating to observe what we tend to lose. It's almost never random.
No, there's a pattern.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We tend to lose car keys, but not the car itself. Wallets or cell phones more often than, say, a stapler or a soup spoon.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Coats and sweaters more often than pants.
This pattern offers a really valuable insight into how our attentional and memory systems interact, or, more often, how they fail to. It's almost always the portable items that don't have a specific, firmly designated place that mysteriously go missing. Ah, the designated place rule.
Exactly. If something isn't consistently returned to the same spot, our brain's spatial memory system struggles to retrieve it efficiently.
That makes perfect sense. And it immediately brings to mind that universal symbol of disorganization, the infamous junk drawer, doesn't it?
Oh, the junk drawer? We all have one. Or several.
Whether it's that physical catch-all drawer in the kitchen that just accumulates everything that doesn't fit neatly anywhere else, or, increasingly, its digital equivalent.
The digital junk drawer is maybe even worse.
I actually asked a friend about his digital junk drawer, and his inventory was truly fascinating. Photos, videos, music files, screensavers of cats wearing party hats.
Classic.
Tax documents from years ago, travel arrangements for trips long past, correspondence he never answered, games he never played, articles he meant to read, and he even joked an archived copy of this very book.
That's brilliant. It's such a perfect, relatable metaphor for the digital chaos many of us live with.
It absolutely is. And that chaos, whether physical or digital, comes with a very real, very human cost.
For sure. It's not just clutter.
Many of us feel like we're perpetually running fast just to stand still, trapped in this hamster wheel of busyness. This constant state of overwhelm directly leads to being sleep-deprived, persistently overstressed, and simply not having enough free time for the activities and pursuits we genuinely want to pursue, the things that bring us joy and fulfillment.
Yeah, that feeling of just treading water. It's a direct, measurable consequence of our brains struggling to manage a volume and velocity of information they simply weren't built for.
And a huge, insidious culprit in all this, of course, is what we call the multitasking trap.
Ah, yes. The myth of multitasking.
We've all been told to multitask, or we feel we must multitask to keep up, thinking we're being incredibly efficient by doing many things at once. But the truth, as neuroscientists now confirm, is that our brains simply don't function that way.
Not at all.
Our ancient ancestors, as we mentioned, evolved to focus on one thing, one immediate threat or opportunity, at a time whether it was hunting prey, meticulously creating tools, or protecting their clans.
Singular focus was key for survival.
Their attentional filters were precisely designed to keep them on task, letting through only the most critical, survival-relevant information.
Precisely. When we attempt to multitask, there's a significant neurobiological switching cost. Our brains don't actually process multiple complex tasks simultaneously. Instead, they flit rapidly from one task to another, a bit like a hyperactive hummingbird.
Rapid switching, not parallel processing.
Exactly. Imagine for a moment trying to talk on the phone, drive through heavy traffic, listen to the radio, actively look for a parking spot, and simultaneously plan your evening party all at once.
Yeah, that sounds stressful.
Your brain isn't processing all that in parallel. It's rapidly switching focus. And each one of those switches burns significant mental energy and resources.
And this isn't just about inefficiency, it's profoundly stressful for our minds and bodies.
Extremely stressful. Multitasking, it turns out, significantly increases the production of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
Ah, the stress hormones.
The result: a persistent mental fog, scrambled thinking, and a feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. But it gets even worse.
Worse. How?
It creates this insidious dopamine addiction feedback loop. Our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for executive functions like planning and focus, also has a novelty bias. It's easily hijacked by anything new and shiny.
Right. The lure of the new notification.
Every time we check a new email, a fresh text message, or scroll through a social media feed, it delivers a little dollop of reward hormones, an endogenous opioid burst that feels good in the moment.
A little dopamine hit.
Yes, and that's the nucleus accumbens, deep in the brain, doing its work. It's often referred to as the brain's pleasure or reward center.
Okay.
We're talking about the same neural circuitry that was famously explored in experiments with rats, where they would incessantly press a lever to stimulate this area, literally ignoring food and sleep until they died of exhaustion.
Wow, that's intense.
Now, of course, we don't literally die from checking email, but it's that very same powerful reward mechanism at play. It leads to what the source calls empty-caloried brain candy.
Empty-caloried brain candy. I like that.
We end up getting 1,000 tiny, fleeting rewards for losing focus, rather than the much larger, more satisfying but delayed rewards that come from sustained, focused effort on a single task.
So it rewards distraction.
Precisely. This rapid, continual switching also rapidly burns through oxygenated glucose in the prefrontal cortex and striatum, leading to rapid exhaustion and a feeling of disorientation, almost like mental whiplash.
That explains the brain fog.
By contrast, staying on a single task, allowing your brain to enter a state of deep focus, uses significantly less energy and reduces the brain's need for glucose, ultimately keeping you sharper, more productive, and considerably less stressed. It's a critical insight for managing your mental energy.
So we've just painted a pretty challenging picture, haven't we? Our brains battling this constant deluge, the seductive pull of multitasking, the exhaustion that follows.
Yeah, it sounds a bit grim.
But the good news, and what we really want to explore next, is that our brains aren't just reacting. They actually possess an incredible innate logic for organization that, once understood, we can learn to work with.
Okay, the brain's own system.
Let's talk about neural networks and categorization. Our brain, fundamentally, represents concepts something like a fire truck as neural nodes that are intricately connected to other clusters of neurons representing its various features. Red, siren, ladder, or even that slightly peculiar separate steering wheel in the back.
Right, like a web of related ideas.
Exactly. And this complex interconnected network allows for incredibly fast and fluid associations. If you simply concentrate on the concept of red, its neural node activates, immediately sending electrochemical signals rippling through the network to everything else connected to it. Cherries, tomatoes, apples, blood, roses.
Ah, so that's why you can list red things so quickly.
Precisely. The act of categorizing isn't just about making sense of the physical world out there. It fundamentally organizes our mental world in here, profoundly shaping what we pay attention to, how we process information, and what we ultimately remember.
So categorization is fundamental to thinking.
It makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Imagine for a moment what life would be like without categories. If every single black bean on your plate was perceived as distinct, entirely separate from every other black bean.
Total chaos. Information overload on a micro level.
Or if every blade of grass in a field was its own unique, incomparable entity, it would be overwhelmingly, paralyzingly complex. Categorization is what allows us to function, to simplify, to make sense of the world.
Right, grouping things together.
And it's not just about obvious perceptual similarities, like how all black beans or all blades of grass look alike. We also categorize conceptually.
Conceptually? How so?
Think about it. If you need to write something down, you might grab a pen or a pencil, a crayon, or in a pinch, even lipstick from that infamous junk drawer.
Okay.
Functionally, they're all equivalent. Things I can use to write on paper with. Even though they're physically very different objects, that's conceptual categorization in action.
Based on function, not just appearance. That's a powerful point. This deeply ingrained drive to categorize is fundamental, almost hardwired into us.
Hardwired.
The source material highlights evidence for this innate categorization going back tens of thousands of years. Early cave paintings, some dating back as far as 50,000 years, already show sophisticated distinctions between here and now and here and not now.
50,000 years ago, wow.
This isn't just simple drawing. It's a prehistoric step in organizing our minds, demonstrating a remarkably sophisticated sense of time and mental representation.
Incredible.
We also observe this in how kinship categories, which might seem arbitrary to us, actually appear across a wide range of animal species.
Kinship in animals.
Yeah. From an evolutionary standpoint, propagating your genes means caring for your relatives. You share, for example, 25% of your genes with nieces and nephews, so helping them survive and thrive is a sound strategy for genetic propagation. This reveals the deep biological importance of these seemingly abstract social categories.
That's truly incredible, the evolutionary roots of organization.
Exactly.
And this deep-seated drive to categorize extends even to how language develops, which is something I find fascinating.
Oh yeah, the linguistic side is amazing.
Researchers have studied thousands of languages across the globe and found a universal order of emergence for terms describing living things.
A universal order.
The very first distinction a language makes is always human-human. Then, as a language evolves and becomes more complex, it adds terms for things that fly, swim, or crawl, so you get words for bird, fish, and snake.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. Broad categories first.
Later still, it develops more general terms for mammal, or for those smaller, often creepy-crawly things that ethnobiologists affectionately call wugs, a combining of worms and bugs.
Wugs? That's fantastic. A functional category.
Exactly. WUGS is a fantastic example of what we call cognitive economy. Most of us just use a single term like bug to refer to a huge, incredibly diverse group of creepy crawlies, because functionally, that's all we need to know most of the time. Keep them out of our food or admire them from a distance.
Right, we don't need the scientific classification usually.
Similarly, we use the single word grass to encompass over 9,000 different species. It's not about achieving biological accuracy, it's about practical utility and mental efficiency. We create categories that are just useful enough for our daily needs.
Cognitive shortcuts.
And colors, too. This categorization pattern shows up even in how we name colors.
Oh, how does that work?
Many pre-industrial languages, for instance, only have two basic color terms, light and dark. But here's the kicker. When they develop a third color term, it is always red.
Always red. Why red?
The dominant theory, which makes perfect sense, is that red, being the color of blood, is universally important for survival. Then, typically, yellow or green terms emerge, followed by blue.
Fascinating. Survival dictates linguistic development.
This hardwired, innate drive to impose structure and acquire knowledge to categorize the world around us was hugely advantageous for our ancestors on the savannah, helping them survive and thrive in a complex environment.
This innate organizational drive is deeply embedded in our cognitive architecture, and it extends right down to how we name things.
Naming conventions, too.
Every language employs primary and secondary names, allowing for both broad categorization and specific identification. Think of fir trees as a general category, then Douglas fir as a specific type, or apples versus Granny Smiths.
General and specific.
We categorize based on broad similarities, but also recognize and name minor important variations. Even man-made objects follow this pattern. Chairs and then easy chairs.
Sure.
And sometimes our brain plays a little trick on us, creating terms that mimic this structure, but refer to completely different things, like silverfish, which is an insect, not a fish, or a prairie dog, a rodent, not a dog.
Right, those misleading names.
It truly shows how fundamental this organizational impulse is.
So while the brain possesses this powerful innate drive to categorize and organize, it also has to manage a constant barrage of sensory input. That brings us to the attentional filter, which is a crucial concept.
Yes, the gatekeeper.
This filter involves millions of neurons constantly monitoring our environment, meticulously selecting only the most important things for our conscious awareness.
Filtering out the noise.
This neural gatekeeper effectively protects us from the endless perceptual detritus, all the irrelevant scenery that whizzes by when you're driving on the freeway for hours, for instance. You don't consciously remember every tree or billboard because your brain efficiently deemed it unimportant, filtering it out.
It's also the brain's incredibly efficient change detector.
The change detector.
That's precisely why you immediately notice if a friend's voice sounds different on the phone, or if there's a new umbrella by the door that wasn't there before. Your brain is wired to spot novelty and change. But conversely, if that umbrella is always by the door, rain or shine, your brain habituates to it. It stops being a trigger for your attention because it's no longer a change.
It becomes background noise.
Exactly. This highlights a critical point for our conversation. Attention is a limited capacity resource. It's not infinite.
Right. We experience these limits all the time, often without realizing it. If you're driving and actively looking for a specific street, what's the first thing you instinctively do?
Turn the radio down.
Exactly. You turn down the radio or ask your friend to pause the conversation. Why? Because you've hit your attentional limit. You can't process all those streams of information simultaneously and effectively focus on your navigation.
Too much input.
Or think about walking into your house after a long day, juggling 2 bags of groceries, and then your phone rings. You put down the bags, answer the phone, maybe usher the pet away from the door, and then where are your keys?
Yes, the mystery of the vanishing keys.
Keeping track of them, putting them in their designated spot was just one thing too many for your attentional system to handle in that moment of cognitive overload.
And these attentional limits are cleverly exploited in things like, where's Waldo? Puzzles.
Waldo.
They are specifically designed to challenge our visual system's neuroarchitecture, with neurons sensitive to specific colors or stripes, making it incredibly difficult to find that particular pattern amidst so much visually similar information.
They really work on that limited capacity.
Beyond this kind of focused attention, our brain also operates in different modes. We have a mind-wandering mode where your thoughts drift, you daydream, you reflect.
The daydreaming mode.
And a central executive mode, which is your focused, task-oriented state. There's a neural switch located in a region called the insula that shifts our attention between these two powerful networks.
So we switch between focus and mind-wandering. That mind-wandering network, which scientists now know involves complex interplay between the regions like the prefrontal cortex, the cingulate, and the hippocampus, is profoundly influenced by a delicate balance of neurochemicals.
The brain chemistry aspect.
Think of it as your brain's internal mood music. Subtle shifts in chemicals like noradrenaline, glutamate, GABA, dopamine, and serotonin profoundly influence whether you're daydreaming productively, solving a creative problem, or feeling stressed and scattered.
It's where a lot of creativity happens, right?
It's the mode where insight often happens, where you process empathy, where you invoke autobiographical memories. And there's tantalizing new evidence suggesting fascinating connections between this network and mood disorders, artistic behavior, and even spirituality. So understanding this isn't just about finding your keys, it's about comprehending the very fabric of your conscious experience and how to optimize it. Okay, given these profound insights into how our brains work, especially their inherent limitations in the face of today's information overload, the next logical and incredibly powerful step is to leverage what we call external mind systems outside our heads.
Right. Offloading the burden.
The core liberating idea is to quite literally offload your brain. Think about it. Categories, for instance, externalize a huge amount of the brain's difficult sorting and retrieval work. If you have a specific drawer designated for all your baking supplies, you don't need to remember the precise location of each individual rolling pin or cookie cutter. You simply remember the category baking supplies and its general location. Your brain is freed from micromanaging all those individual items.
Exactly. We actually do this far more than we consciously realize, or at least we should do more of it. Calendars, smartphones, address books. These are all classic examples of brain extenders, externalizing myriad details onto paper or into sophisticated computer chips.
Like an external hard drive for our memory.
Precisely.
Oh.
Historically, books serve this exact role, keeping centuries of knowledge accessible outside of any single individual's memory. What's particularly interesting, as the source material points out, is that many high achievers, even those operating in cutting-edge high-tech fields, still heavily rely on decidedly low-tech solutions for organizing important things.
Really? Like what?
We're talking about simple shopping lists, sticky notes for project ideas, handwritten reminders for appointments. They recognize the power of externalizing, getting it out of their heads.
This brings us directly to the profound observations of David Allen, the renowned efficiency expert behind getting things done.
GTD. A classic.
He noticed a simple yet powerful phenomenon. When he made a big, comprehensive list of everything that was on his mind, he immediately felt more relaxed, more focused, and strangely, more capable.
The brain dump effect.
This isn't just a personal quirk, it's rooted in fundamental neurology. Our brains have what's been called a rehearsal loop, that mental space where our minds keep nagging us about things we need to remember.
That internal nag, yeah, I know it well.
Think of it like a sticky note constantly stuck to your internal monitor, reminding you of pending tasks or a song endlessly playing in your head. This loop, involving the frontal cortex and hippocampus, constantly worries about forgetting important to-do items. Writing them down, Allen found, actually gives your brain explicit permission to let go of that thought, to stop that mental rehearsal.
It frees up bandwidth.
This liberates vast amounts of mental energy and allows the central executive, that part of your brain that orchestrates attention and decision-making, to focus on the task at hand. It stops the mind-wandering network from constantly competing with your focused attention.
It's truly transformative for mental clarity. Allen, building on this, recommends a remarkably simple mnemonic for fine-sorting your to-do list once you've externalized it. Do it, delegate it, defer it, drop it.
The 4 Ds.
Exactly. And he offers a practical, immediate application with his 2-minute rule. If a task will take less than 2 minutes to complete, do it right then and there.
Just knock it out.
He suggests setting aside a daily block of time specifically for these quick tasks before they accumulate into an overwhelming backlog. If someone else is better suited or capable of doing it, delegate it. Anything that requires more time or isn't immediately urgent, defer it. And if priorities shift or the task is no longer relevant or valuable, don't hesitate to drop it entirely.
Be ruthless.
This system is all about making conscious choices about your tasks, rather than letting them fester in your mental rehearsal loop.
I find that incredibly liberating. It's about being proactive and decisive with your mental energy. And speaking of externalizing, many people find the physical index card system to be wonderfully liberating for capturing and organizing thoughts.
Index cards. Old school, but effective.
Unlike voice recorders, which are often inefficient for listening back and notoriously difficult to sort and rearrange, index cards offer unparalleled flexibility. You can sort and resort them to your heart's content, physically moving ideas around as your understanding or priorities evolve.
Yeah, the tactile aspect is powerful.
The philosopher Robert Pirsig, for example, experimented extensively with different ways of organizing his complex thoughts on cards, ultimately finding that simplicity and the tactile nature of the cards often worked best for clarity.
Yes, the dedicated experts who truly master this system will proactively scan their cards every single morning, reordering them, adding new ones as ideas strike, adapting to constantly changing priorities, and critically, identifying any missing information needed for upcoming decisions.
So it's a dynamic system.
It's a dynamic living system rather than a static, rigid one. It acts as a physical representation of your active mental landscape, allowing you to manipulate and understand it more effectively than purely abstract thoughts in your head.
Now, let's talk about organizing your physical and digital spaces, which is where many of us struggle.
Oh yeah, the clutter zone.
Our homes, quite frankly, are rarely as perfectly organized and efficient as a professional system like an Ace hardware store, a Gap clothing store, or a Lancome cosmetics counter.
Right, those places are meticulously planned.
Those businesses are driven by powerful market forces and benefit from highly paid organizational experts who meticulously plan every shelf and display. The goal for us, though, is precisely the same: to achieve maximum information with the least cognitive effort.
Make it easy on your future self.
It's about making things easy to find and use.
That's the key. Think about it. We rarely lose forks and knives, do we?
No, generally not.
Why? Because they have a firmly designated place in the silverware drawer. Toothbrushes consistently stay in the bathroom. But portable items, like that elusive bottle opener that gets carried from the kitchen to the living room, or your hairbrush that might migrate from the bathroom to the bedroom, are the ones that often go missing.
It always comes back to the designated place.
That's the rule of the designated place at work. And it's not just about designated places. It's also the principle of making visible things you need regularly and cleverly hiding the things you don't.
Like remote control design.
Exactly. Consider the design of a TV remote. The buttons you use all the time are prominently displayed, while the seldom used setup or programming controls are often hidden behind a small panel. It's intelligent organization for intuitive use.
When it comes to managing the sheer volume of information in our lives, especially digital versus paper filing, there are two distinct and often passionately defended schools of thought.
The digital versus paper debate.
Malcolm Slaney, a brilliant Microsoft engineer, is a staunch advocate for scanning everything into OCR PDFs.
Okay, the all-digital approach.
And for those who might not know, OCR stands for optical character recognition, meaning the computer can actually read the text in your scanned documents, making them fully searchable.
Searchability is huge.
He argues this approach takes up virtually no physical space, it's environmentally friendly, and incredibly easy to share. You can use your computer's powerful search function to instantly find keywords within hundreds, even thousands of scanned documents.
Sounds very efficient. But what's the counter-argument?
On the other hand, someone like Linda, a seasoned executive assistant the source describes, holds a strong preference for paper.
Team paper.
Her main compelling argument is that paper is almost permanent, durable for centuries. Digital files, she points out, due to rapidly changing technology, can become unreadable in as little as 10 years because old operating systems or file formats quickly become obsolete.
Oof. Yeah, file format obsolescence is a real problem.
Imagine losing all your critical financial records, tax returns, or precious family photos because your new computer simply can't open them anymore.
That's a scary thought.
While both systems have merits, the most important factor, regardless of whether you choose digital or paper, is ultimately ease of retrieval. If you can't find it when you need it, it's effectively lost.
Retrieval is everything. Doesn't matter how you store it if you can't find it.
So for those who choose physical paper, the classic hanging file folder system, as detailed in the source, is still considered the gold standard for efficiency.
Good old filing cabinets.
Experts recommend alphabetizing individual folders within broader, higher-order categories like home, financial, medical, and miscellaneous. And within those, the key is to have specific folders for each account or correspondent.
Specificity matter.
So Bank of America account, #1234, rather than just a general bank statements folder. That junk drawer category for miscellaneous items also serves a vital purpose, holding things that don't fit neatly elsewhere, like pet vaccination records or unique travel brochures.
The miscellaneous bucket is important too.
And for those who need to visually scan all their files, open filing carts can be incredibly effective.
Yeah, seeing everything at once.
Finally, let's talk about something incredibly vital in the age of information: safeguarding your information.
Backups and security. Crucial.
This is all about proactively planning for failure. It's a fundamental shift from reacting to loss to preventing it and setting up robust fail-safes.
Planning for the worst, hoping for the best.
Think about simple common sense practices like hiding a spare house key in a secure outdoor location, or taking cell phone photos of your passport, driver's license, and credit cards just in case.
Simple but effective precautions.
When traveling, keeping one form of ID and some emergency cash physically separate from your main wallet is a crucial, simple fail-safe. Or having a dedicated, simple envelope for all your travel receipts so they don't get mixed into the general chaos of your bag.
Reduces hassle later on.
And for digital data, the hazards are particularly significant and often underestimated. A vast majority of the world's data currently resides on magnetic disks, which are incredibly vulnerable to temperature changes, magnetic fields, and simply mechanical failure.
Right. Hard drives don't last forever.
As IT experts often grimly joke, it's not if your hard drive will fail, it's when. Studies confirm this. Up to a 50% failure rate within 5 years for individual hard drives, and 25% of servers fail within 2 years.
Those are worrying statistics. That's a massive risk.
Then there's the issue we touched on earlier: file format obsolescence, where perfectly good old files become unreadable by new software and operating systems.
So a robust backup strategy is not merely advisable. It is absolutely essential for any business or individual operating in the digital age.
Absolutely essential. Multiple backups, ideally.
And for managing the sheer overwhelming number of passwords we all have to contend with, using dedicated programs that generate strong, unique, complex passwords.
Password managers.
What the source vividly calls an unholy mess of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special symbols, like QK8 hashtag at IP%A, is critical.
That looks impossible to remember.
Exactly. To remember these without having to jot them down, a clever mnemonic system can be incredibly effective. For example, taking the first letter of a memorable sentence, "My first true vacation starts in Big Bear," becomes MFTV SciB, then adding a symbol and a number, like MFTV 655BB.
Ah, a system based on a phrase.
Then, to make each one unique, but still manageable, you can customize it for each vendor, perhaps by adding a unique prefix or suffix related to the site you're logging into. This creates strong, unique passwords without having to memorize entirely different complex strings for every single service.
This next section is incredibly crucial because it delves into how we make decisions, particularly when faced with uncertainty and incomplete information.
Decision-making under pressure, yeah.
President Obama once astutely observed that nothing comes to my desk that is perfectly solvable, otherwise someone else would have solved it.
Huh. That's a great quote. Sums it up perfectly.
This perfectly highlights a core truth about truly critical choices. They inherently involve a significant degree of uncertainty. If the answer were obvious, it wouldn't land on your desk.
And this is precisely where relying on gut feelings or pure intuition can lead us profoundly astray, especially when statistical information is actually available.
So gut feelings can be wrong.
Often, yes. Our brains, fascinatingly, did not evolve for sophisticated probabilistic thinking. We tend to conflate two very different concepts when we use the term probability. There's objective probability, which refers to calculable, countable, and repeatable events, like a coin toss or drawing cards from a deck.
Okay, like mathematical probability.
And then there's subjective probability, which is simply a matter of opinion or a feeling about something. Is absolutely vital to consciously distinguish between these two.
Objective versus subjective. That's a powerful distinction. And a classic example of this flawed intuition is the infamous gambler's fallacy.
Ah, yes, the roulette wheel misconception.
You see it all the time. People expecting tails after a long string of heads when flipping a coin, or assuming a plane is due for a crash because one happened recently, or that their lottery numbers are due.
Believing past events influence future independent ones.
But each coin toss is an independent event. The probability of getting another head is still precisely 50-50. The plane isn't due for a crash because past flights have no bearing on future mechanical failures.
However, it's worth noting that probabilities can change in some situations, like drawing cards from a deck. The probability of drawing an ace does increase as more non-aces are dealt because the composition of the deck changes.
Right, when it's not independent.
Our brains often struggle to correctly apply these different probabilistic models. And this cognitive blind spot leads us to a specific type of cognitive bias known as base rate neglect, or the representativeness heuristic.
Base rate neglect. Okay, what's that?
This is our ingrained tendency to completely ignore overall probabilities or statistical likelihoods in favor of what we perceive as diagnostic or specific information, even if it's less relevant.
Ignoring the background stats.
Exactly. For instance, imagine you meet someone who is wearing a flag pin, knows an incredible amount about current politics, and is trailed by a Secret Service agent. Your gut instinct might be to immediately assume they are a cabinet member.
Yeah. Sounds plausible.
But you're almost certainly ignoring the base rate. There are 850,000 doctors in the U.S. and only 15 cabinet members. Statistically, there are far, far more doctors who might coincidentally fit that descriptive profile for various reasons than actual cabinet members.
Wow. Okay. The numbers tell a different story. That's such a compelling example.
It really highlights the bias.
Here's another. Researchers describe a hypothetical university party where only 10% of the students present are engineers. If you meet someone new, but can't see any obvious engineer-specific clues about them, and you're asked what the probability is that they are an engineer, people often default to saying 50-50.
Because there are two options, engineer or not engineer.
Right. But if you truly know nothing else about them, the base rate clearly dictates it's only 10%. Just because there are two choices, engineer or not engineer, doesn't automatically mean they're equally likely.
We forget the underlying distribution.
What's interesting is that we can use base rates effectively when events are extremely unlikely. No one thinks there's a 50-50 chance of bumping into Queen Elizabeth at your local grocery store.
Right. The absurdity forces us to consider the base rate.
But when events are only mildly unlikely, or seem ambiguous, our brains tend to freeze up and discard the base rate altogether.
And this is precisely where Bayes' rule emerges as an incredibly powerful tool, providing a rational mathematical method for combining base rate information with other diagnostic details.
Bayes' rule sounds complex.
It can be, but let's walk through a common simplified example often used in the source material. Imagine a hypothetical disease test with a very low base rate, say 1 in 10,000 people in the general population actually have this disease.
Okay, very rare.
Now, let's say the test itself is quite good, but it has a 2% false positive and 2% false negative rate.
So it makes mistakes sometimes.
Right. If you receive a positive test result, it's completely natural for your immediate reaction to be panic, assuming you have the disease.
Understandably.
But by carefully constructing a simplified fourfold table, as the source describes, you can visualize the probabilities. Out of 10,000 people, only 1 actually has the disease. But with a 2% false positive rate, about 200 healthy people will also test positive.
Wait, 200 false positives?
Roughly, yes. So out of the 201 people who test positive, only 1 would actually have the disease. That means there's only a 1 in 201 chance, roughly 0.49% that you have it, despite that positive test.
Less than 0.5%. That's incredibly counterintuitive.
Exactly. The test result alone doesn't tell you the whole story. You desperately need to integrate the base rate and the error rate. And ideally, your doctor would also consider your personal medical history and specific symptoms, which is what Bayesian updating is all about. Continuously refining your probability estimates based on relevant, individualized information.
That example truly highlights the counterintuitive nature of statistics. And this becomes even more profoundly challenging when we talk about medical decisions, especially because they so often come hand in hand with immense physical, emotional, and psychological stress.
Yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
Doctors, for instance, tend to be trained to know efficacy. Very well does a treatment work to cure a disease, but often know less about the precise risk profile for the individual patient, the drawbacks, or the side effects.
The focus is often on the cure, less on the side effects.
This, unfortunately, creates what the source calls shadow work for patients who must then undertake their own, often complex and stressful research to truly understand the risks involved.
A stark, almost shocking example the source provides is prostate cancer surgery. It illustrates this perfectly.
Okay, what's the example?
For every 48 surgeries performed, only 1 life is actually extended.
1 in 48.
Think about that. The other 47 patients would have lived just as long anyway. But, and this is crucial, of those 47 unhelped patients, a staggering 24 will experience major debilitating side effects.
24 out of 47, that's more than half.
We're talking about impotence, incontinence, even a torn rectum or sepsis. You are quite literally 24 times more likely to be seriously harmed by the side effects than you are to be helped by the cure.
That's devastating.
And even more sobering, 20% of men who undergo the surgery ultimately regret it. This highlights the critical need to factor quality of life, not just sheer survival rates, into these deeply personal and often agonizing decisions.
That statistic is truly eye-opening, and yet surgeons often operate with the mindset that a chance to cut is a chance to cure, reflecting that enduring art versus science tension in medicine.
Yeah, there's a bias towards action sometimes.
While some people might object to using cold averages in such life or death decisions, arguing that each life is unique, the rational approach, as the source suggests, is to view these choices as part of a long string of decisions you'll make throughout your life.
Like a portfolio of health decisions.
It's like choosing whether to take daily vitamins, commit to regular exercise, or get an annual flu shot. Each carries a probability of a certain outcome and an expected value, whether that value is in years of life, quality of life, or simply avoiding illness.
And on a related note, we absolutely must critically evaluate alternative medicine.
Ah, yes, a controversial area.
The name itself is often misleading, implying it's an alternative to medicine, when in many cases it's simply not medicine at all. There is often a complete lack of rigorous evidence for efficacy, and alarmingly, it can sometimes be quite dangerous.
Like the green tea extract example.
Exactly. Green tea extract, for example, which is widely marketed as a natural fat-burning supplement, has been shown to cause severe liver damage. It now accounts for a significant portion, sometimes 20%, of all drug-related liver injuries.
Wow, 20% from green tea extract.
As the saying goes, the plural of anecdote is not data. My friend, for instance, survived a cancer diagnosis for 12 years after being told he had 6 months, having radically changed his diet and exercise. His doctors, seeing his remission, could only suggest their initial tests were wrong. But without controls, without proper data, it's just a compelling story, not scientific evidence of cause and effect that can be reliably applied to others.
That's a vital distinction, anecdote versus data. And we also frequently fall prey to what's called numerator versus denominator bias.
Numerator versus denominator. Explain that.
This is our tendency to focus on dramatic individual cases, the numerator, while completely ignoring the vast underlying statistics, the denominator.
Focusing on the exceptions, not the rule.
A chilling example from after 9/11 illustrates this perfectly. The widespread fear of flying led an estimated 2,170 more people to die in car crashes in the following 2 months, simply because they chose to drive instead of fly.
2,170 deaths due to fear.
They focused on the 4 plane crashes, the numerator, without considering the 10 million safe commercial flights per year, the denominator. This powerfully illustrates how fear, unchecked by critical thinking, can lead to truly terrible decisions with tragic consequences.
Ultimately, cultivating strong critical thinking skills helps us clarify these incredibly complex issues and make more rational choices. But we also have to acknowledge the power of our own personal biases, like regret aversion.
Regret aversion.
The tendency to choose a high-risk treatment or action to avoid potential future regret, even if the statistical odds of a positive outcome are incredibly low. This bias can be incredibly powerful in driving irrational decisions.
Wanting to feel like you did everything possible.
Exactly. The best strategy, then, is a multi-pronged approach. Arm yourself with accurate, contextualized statistics, strive to understand your own cognitive biases and how they might influence you, and, most importantly, be deeply clear on your core values and what truly matters to you.
Beyond precise, almost clinical calculations, sometimes you just need to estimate. We actually use plausibility checks and order of magnitude estimates all the time in our daily lives, often unconsciously.
Guesstimate, yeah.
For instance, you intuitively know there are roughly 16 tablespoons in a cup, even if you can't recall the exact conversion. We also constantly set boundary conditions without thinking about them. You expect your bathroom scale to read within a few pounds of yesterday, or you instantly know if your commute time is radically longer or shorter than usual, even without glancing at a stopwatch.
Our internal sense of normal. These are all forms of unconscious estimation. And then there are Fermi problems, named after the brilliant physicist Enrico Fermi, who was famous for his uncanny ability to estimate seemingly impossible things with very little initial data.
Fermi problems, like what?
Think of questions like, how many piano tuners are there in Chicago? Or how much does the Empire State Building weigh?
How would you even start to answer that?
These problems, which initially seem unsolvable, are tackled by systematically breaking them down into manageable chunks, making educated, reasonable guesses for each component, and explicitly identifying your underlying assumptions.
Breaking it down step by step.
It's not about getting the exact answer, it's about the process of logical approximation. This skill, it turns out, is highly predictive of success in many creative and technical jobs, as it reveals a mind's ability to work through and solve genuinely unsolvable problems by approaching them systemically.
That also ties perfectly into what's known as lateral thinking.
Thinking outside the box.
The invaluable ability to use objects, ideas, or even situations in new, unconventional ways. Think of all the uses for a simple pencil beyond just writing. It can be a compass hand, a makeshift dart, a pole for a Lilliputian sailboat, even a hairbun holder.
Seeing new possibilities.
This type of thinking fosters ingenuity, encourages experimentation, and is absolutely crucial for navigating a world filled with constant unknowns and ever-changing challenges. It's about seeing possibilities beyond the obvious. Now let's pivot our deep dive to how we organize perhaps the most complex aspects of our lives. Our social and professional worlds.
Right. People and work. Big topics.
These areas have undergone massive fundamental shifts throughout history. Businesses, for example, which were once small, localized operations, dramatically expanded their scale to national and international levels with the advent of groundbreaking technologies like the telegraph and railroads in the mid-1800s.
Yeah, the world got smaller, businesses got bigger.
This transformation ushered in what the source calls the age of paperwork. creating entirely new, unprecedented organizational challenges for managing mountains of documentation, coordinating vast supply chains, and communicating across immense distances.
Indeed. And the organization of companies themselves evolved in response, moving from relatively flat structures to deep hierarchies, establishing clear chains of authority, much like the military.
Top-down structures.
It's fascinating how our understanding of decision-making, even in these large structures, is evolving. Neuroeconomics, a newer field, even shows us that our economic and professional decisions aren't purely rational calculations.
Not purely rational.
No. They profoundly involve emotional brain regions like the insula and amygdala, which process potential costs and risks, and the striatum and nucleus accumbens, which light up for perceived benefits and rewards. Our perceived rationality in decision-making is often an illusion, driven by these deeper, faster cognitive and emotional impulses.
That's a powerful insight, revealing how much our gut instincts play a role even in the boardroom. And on the topic of organizational structure and leadership, the U.S. Army, perhaps surprisingly to some, has been at the forefront of applying psychological science to organizational behavior and leadership.
The Army. Interesting.
Their mission command principles are incredibly powerful and applicable far beyond the battlefield. They emphasize building trust, creating a shared understanding of goals, encouraging disciplined initiative within clear parameters, and accepting prudent risks.
Trust, shared goals, initiative, risk. Sounds like good business practice.
These principles, the source makes clear, apply directly and powerfully to leading effective teams in any business or organization.
A key concept here is locus of control, a psychological measure of whether individuals believe they primarily control their own outcomes and destiny, an internal locus of control, or whether external factors like luck, fate, or other people are largely responsible, an external locus.
Internal versus external control.
Individuals with a strong internal locus tend to be higher achievers, they learn more effectively, and they actively seek out new information and challenges. However, the source points out, they can sometimes be perceived as troublesome to supervise precisely because they are inclined to initiate changes and challenge the status quo.
So internals can be harder to manage.
Potentially, yes.
Yep.
Managers need to recognize these fundamental differences in personality and tailor their management styles, providing more autonomy and challenge to internals and perhaps more structured, constrained roles to externals.
Adapting the style.
What's also crucial, and often overlooked by management, is that most workers are profoundly motivated by intrinsic rewards, not just paychecks.
Things beyond money.
Managers often attribute shallow, purely financial motives to employees, when things like pride in one's work, self-respect, a sense of purpose, and autonomy are far more deeply motivating. Giving workers more autonomy, as was dramatically seen in the turnaround at the GM Fremont plant, can dramatically boost performance and morale.
That's a profound lesson in leadership. Autonomy matters.
Hugely.
And when it comes to maximizing personal productivity, successful leaders, whether in business or other fields, offer remarkably timeless and consistent advice.
What's the secret sauce?
Many are early risers, meticulously stick to a disciplined schedule, and prioritize making time for regular physical exercise. And interestingly, many highly successful individuals like Mark Cuban and Warren Buffett famously view most meetings as an utter waste of time, preferring an open, uncluttered schedule for deep, focused work.
Fewer meetings, more focus time. Makes sense.
Buffett's date book, famously, has been nearly empty for 25 years, allowing him to think, read, and make truly strategic decisions without constant interruption.
Wow. The power of an empty schedule.
Moving to our social connections, it's a fascinating area where we also impose organization. We instinctively organize our friendships for various reasons, perhaps historical ties from childhood, mutual admiration for shared talents, or shared goals and projects.
The different types of friends we have.
Ideally, friends are those rare people with whom we can truly be our true selves, allowing ourselves to even enter that mind-wandering mode without feeling awkward or judged. They're the people with whom we don't have to put on an act.
Or you can let your guard down.
And practical systems can surprisingly help maintain these vital social connections. Linda, the executive assistant we heard about earlier, famously uses a tickler system for her social life.
A tickler system for friends.
It's essentially a reminder, usually in a calendar or digital note, to check in with friends periodically. This system beautifully complements spontaneity, ensuring that valuable connections are maintained and nurtured over time without the need to rigidly schedule every interaction.
Intentional maintenance. I like that. It's about intentional maintenance of your social network. Social networking, while providing immense breadth and connection to a vast number of people, often, unfortunately, lacks true depth.
Yeah, breadth over depth.
Online contact, while convenient, is best viewed as a supplement, not a replacement, for in-person interaction. There's a subtle illusion here. Relying too heavily on online interactions can actually limit our biological capacity to connect on a truly intimate level.
It feels less real sometimes.
True intimacy, particularly within a Western cultural context, involves sharing private behaviors, deep thoughts, fears, vulnerabilities, and collaboratively creating shared meaning in a way that allows for genuine freedom to be oneself without pretense or filter.
It's so true how the digital world can sometimes feel broad but shallow. And just as we carry cognitive biases into our decision-making, we also carry them into our social judgments.
Oh yes, social biases are powerful.
In-group, out-group bias is a hardwired, almost instinctive tendency to favor those within our perceived group, and often to misjudge or generalize about outsiders.
Us versus them thinking.
We tend to view our own group as diverse, complex, and nuanced, while perceiving other groups as homogeneous and simplistic. This bias, unfortunately, diminishes our ability to forge new, valuable social relations and understand different perspectives.
Racism, for instance, is a dangerous and destructive manifestation of this in-group, out-group bias, generalizing from often single, isolated instances to entire groups of people.
Judging a whole group by one example.
The illogical fallacy goes something like this. Mr. A from Ophalania did something I don't like, therefore everyone from Ophalania must do this thing and be like that. While our brains did evolve to make quick generalizations for survival in simpler contexts, in complex social environments, this can be incredibly harmful and lead to prejudice.
It's a dangerous shortcut.
A truly powerful example of overcoming this is seen in Khrushchev's letter to Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Instead of escalating conflict, he deliberately appealed to their shared status as leaders of major world powers, effectively turning Kennedy into an in-group member by appealing to a higher shared identity.
Finding common ground to bridge the gap.
This brilliant move opened the door to resolving the conflict peacefully.
That's an incredible historical example of psychological leverage. Another pervasive bias is the diffusion of responsibility.
The bystander effect.
This is the phenomenon where, in emergencies, people are less likely to help if they think others are also present, often assuming someone else will act.
Someone else will handle it.
A classic experiment showed that individuals were nearly 3 times more likely to help a seizure victim if they believed they were the sole witness compared to when they thought other people were present. It's a chilling illustration of how a crowd can paradoxically reduce individual action.
And then there's the pervasive fundamental attribution error. Our tendency to attribute others' behavior primarily to their stable personality traits or character, rather than to situational factors that might be influencing them.
Judging the person, not the situation.
For example, if your coworker, Kevin, doesn't say hello to you one morning, your immediate thought might be that he's rude or arrogant, rather than considering that he might be lost in thought, incredibly stressed about a deadline, or late for an important meeting. This error is often exacerbated when we ourselves are under cognitive load or experiencing information overload.
We jump to conclusions when we're stressed.
Similarly, outcome bias means we judge intelligence or effort solely based on results, even when we know situational factors were at play.
Judging by the result only.
If Jolie passes a notoriously difficult college course with ease and Martina struggles and fails, we might automatically assume Jolie is inherently smarter, even if we know their instructors had vastly different grading leniencies or that Martina was dealing with a family emergency.
It's so difficult to untangle those. And even when information is clearly shown to be false, it's incredibly difficult for our brains to ignore or discard it. That's the phenomenon known as belief perseverance.
Once an idea is planted, it's hard to remove.
If you hear negative information about a job offer you're considering, and then later learn that the information was actually about a completely different company, that initial false negative impression still stubbornly lingers.
It still colors your perception.
Lawyers know this psychological trick well. Planting seeds of false ideas during a trial, knowing that a judge's instruction to disregard that last exchange often comes far too late to undo the initial impression. The famous Valens experiment in the 1960s, which used perceived heartbeats to influence men's attraction to Playboy centerfolds, chillingly demonstrated how persistent these induced false beliefs are, even after participants were debriefed and told the heartbeats were fake.
Wow, even after being told it was fake. Finally, we often subtly use indirect speech acts in our social interactions.
Indirect speech, like hinting.
This is about using unspoken implied meaning to soften a message, subdue potential hostility, or implicitly affirm shared worldviews. For instance, if you want to reject an invitation, saying, "Oh, I'd love to, but I have to wash my hair tonight," is a gentler, more socially graceful refusal than a direct, blunt no.
The classic polite excuse.
It implies a shared understanding of social niceties, without outright contradiction or giving too much or too little information. And while we might like to think our social behaviors are entirely conscious and rational, neurochemicals like oxytocin and vasopressin profoundly influence them, even dictating monogamy in voles.
So biology plays a huge role in our social lives, too.
It's truly fascinating to realize how much of our social wiring is deeply biological.
So we've journeyed through the challenges of information overload, the brain's innate logic, and practical strategies for organizing our external world, as well as our social and professional lives. But let's look to the future. A powerful, perhaps surprisingly profound tool for optimizing brain function and organization is simply sleep.
Sleep. So underrated, yet so crucial.
It's far more than just rest. It's a vital, active period when three distinct kinds of information processing occur.
Active processing during sleep. Tell me more.
First, there's unitization, where discrete individual elements of information are powerfully combined into a unified concept.
Like putting puzzle pieces together.
Think of a musician learning individual musical phrases during the day, and then sleep binds them together, creating a seamless, intuitive whole that they can perform effortlessly. Second, there's assimilation, where new information is effectively integrated into your existing knowledge networks.
Connecting new dots to old ones.
This is how you learn new words and concepts, even unconsciously forming sample sentences or connecting disparate facts without conscious effort. And third, and critically, there's insight.
The aha moment during sleep.
This is where solutions to complex problems often magically appear after a period of sleep, frequently accompanied by powerful bursts of gamma waves, which are thought to bind together previously disparate neural networks, leading to that sudden aha moment.
It's incredible to think of our brains working so hard even when we're completely unconscious. And the interplay of REM and NREM sleep cycles is absolutely crucial for this memory consolidation and learning.
Different sleep stages do different jobs.
Conversely, sleep deprivation consistently prevents these vital sleep-related improvements in learning and memory. You literally lose the opportunity for your brain to optimize itself.
So pulling an all-nighter is counterproductive for learning.
Massively. Our natural melatonin production, profoundly influenced by light and dark cycles, guides our innate urge to sleep.
On a practical note for productivity, the source highlights how executives like Jake apply the do-it-now strategy and the slightly more colorful advice of eating the frog.
Eating the frog.
Doing the most unpleasant or daunting task first thing in the morning when willpower is highest, because that mental resource depletes throughout the day. It's about conquering the biggest challenge before your cognitive reserves are drained.
Get the worst over with first. Makes sense. And understanding the different forms of procrastination, whether it's initiation deficits where you struggle just to start, planning difficulties where the task feels too amorphous, lack of materials, or simply lack of experience with a particular type of task, can fundamentally help us tackle them.
Knowing why you're procrastinating.
The key often lies in breaking larger, intimidating problems into smaller, more manageable components, making that initial leap far less daunting.
This leads us beautifully into cultivating creativity and serendipity. Think of the flow state, a term famously coined by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, where you completely lose all track of time, experience heightened awareness, and feel an incredible sense of well-being.
Being in the zone.
It's not just a feeling, it's a distinct neurochemical and neuroanatomical state, activating specific brain regions like the left prefrontal cortex and basal ganglia, while paradoxically deactivating other areas for less inhibition, allowing for unconstrained creativity.
Flow is not accidental. It fundamentally requires practice and expertise. A musician who has meticulously mastered their scales can play them automatically. Their fingers, quite literally, just know where to go, without conscious thought.
Automaticity frees up focus.
This automaticity frees up their conscious attention, allowing them to improvise, to feel the music, and to enter that state of flow. Creative people, like legendary musicians Neil Young or Stevie Wonder, often meticulously arrange their entire lives to maximize these precious periods of flow, sometimes even sacrificing basic punctuality for their art, because staying connected to their muse and their creative process is their highest priority.
Prioritizing flow over schedules.
They understand the profound value of uninterrupted, focused, creative time.
And this concept of cultivating flow also relates to the value of serendipity, the delightful experience of stumbling upon unexpected, fortunate discoveries.
Happy accidents.
There's a particular pleasure, a unique intellectual sustenance, in physically browsing through physical libraries, allowing your gaze to wander across shelves, perhaps even idly turning through irrelevant articles to unexpectedly find something truly captivating and relevant. This crowded stacks of musky libraries experience provides a type of intellectual nourishment that is often denied by a database search, which, while surgically precise in finding exactly what you're looking for, often completely lacks that element of chance discovery and cross-pollination of ideas.
Yeah, the joy of browsing versus targeted search. It's a trade-off, isn't it? Computer engineers are actively trying to replicate this serendipity with tools like StumbleUpon or Wikipedia's random article button. But the source notes that they often tend to be too unconstrained, treating all topics equally, without the subtle human curation and contextual relevance that makes serendipity truly valuable.
It's hard to replicate human curation.
Ultimately, effective learning in our modern information landscape involves both proactive searching, pulling information, with a specific targeted goal, and intelligent filtering, whether that filtering is done by you yourself or by a carefully curated system. Recognizing this inherent trade-off between pure efficiency and the potential for serendipitous discovery is key.
Finally, and perhaps most importantly, all of this culminates in the profound imperative of lifelong learning and critical thinking.
Keeping the mind active.
The research is clear. Staying mentally active, continuously performing new tasks that challenge your brain, and maintaining a lifetime pattern of learning can significantly stave off the cognitive effects of aging and even protect against diseases like Alzheimer's by reducing amyloid deposits in the brain.
Use it or lose it, essentially. It's like exercise for your mind. And in our current internet era, knowing where to look up information is still important, but far more crucial is understanding how to verify that information.
Verification is key online.
We must be incredibly wary of taking web content at face value. Traditional cues for trust, like body language or facial expressions, are completely absent online. Articles are often reposted or subtly altered. Product endorsements are frequently disguised as objective reviews, and imposters are sadly common.
It's the Wild West out there.
It's a digital Wild West, and you're the sheriff.
So, as the source powerfully advises, you must ask critical questions about any website or piece of information you encounter. Is the page current and regularly updated? What's the domain? Is it a reliable.gov or .org? Or is it merely someone's personal opinion or an extreme, unverified view?
Be a critical consumer of information.
And always, always remember the fundamental correlation versus causation challenge. Just because a study shows omega-3s are linked to prostate cancer, for example, doesn't mean they cause it. There could be a third factor X that's responsible for both.
Don't jump to cause and effect conclusions. You, the listener, must take full responsibility for verifying information, for testing it against other sources, and for critically evaluating its validity and context. This, truly, is the essential skill for the next generation. To think clearly, completely, critically, and creatively.
It's about mental self-defense, almost.
It also brings us back to the fascinating concept of levels of excellence in expertise. Think about it. Talking to someone just one level above you in a particular field means they often see things instantly, intuitively, that still require significant effort and conscious thought from you.
They just get it faster.
But someone 2 or more levels above you, their insights might seem to speak almost a different language entirely. Their understanding so far removed from your current grasp that it feels almost incomprehensible. Yet it's precisely by trying to learn from these masters that you make the most invaluable leaps in your own understanding and expertise, even if you don't fully grasp it all at first.
Learning from those ahead of you.
It's a journey of continuous intellectual humility and aspiration.
That's a perfect encapsulation of our deep dive. This journey has shown us that organizing your mind isn't about rigid, unforgiving rules or suppressing your natural human tendencies.
No, it's about working with your brain.
Instead, it's about deeply understanding how your brain works. Its incredible strengths, yes, but also its surprising limitations and inherent biases. And armed with that understanding, it's about strategically applying the right tools and systems to not just cope, but to truly thrive in this complex, information-rich world.
You now possess a far deeper understanding, a kind of practical owner's manual to direct that relentless fire hose of information and choices towards your own specific goals and purposes.
Taking control of the fire hose.
This empowers you to be more effective, considerably less stressed, and to truly unlock your innate creative potential.
And as we close this deep dive, consider this provocative thought. The most profound and lasting organization isn't just about managing external information or even our physical and digital spaces.
What is it then?
It's ultimately about cultivating a mind that is constantly learning, perpetually questioning, and elegantly adapting to new realities, recognizing that a mistake is an opportunity to learn, allows for continuous growth, transforming perceived failures into stepping stones.
Embracing mistakes as learning opportunities.
This lifelong commitment to curiosity, to critical thinking, to testing and evaluating every new piece of information is the ultimate, most rewarding path to true well-informedness and personal fulfillment.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.